Berat gila tu.
Alright. Welcome back to episode 8.
What's up?
This time we're at episode 8 and we're going to be talking in depth and picking up what we left off of from the last episode about powerlifting and nutrition. Right. So, what do powerlifters eat? Are we like a different species and we don't eat like normal food, or
maybe you eat more than
Donuts. Gummy bears.
gummy bears?
I used to believe that.
Well, 80% of
Yeah, I know.
powerlifters' diet is about gummy bears.
Gummy bears.
No, because I remember like when starting powerlifting, I was like, they were like, oh, you just eat because you need all the energy to lift, and I was like, okay, sure. I was just like stuffing myself. I gained like 3 kilo immediately, and I was like, this can't be right. Because in between sets, I would eat donuts. Like,
oh shit.
Yeah, I went from like 57 to 60 kilos, just like that.
God damn, powerlifting gains.
In it.
Yeah.
So, shall we talk about a bit of our experiences throughout our career, like I guess lifting career, how our diet has changed from the start till now, and what are some of the realization that made that change happen? So, shall you start, Haris? Let's switch it around.
Can I'm trying to recall like the last time I actually had I've always been like sort of a bit conscious about my diet, but not to the extent like for the purpose of powerlifting. So I'm trying to recall like when was exactly I started to align my diet for the purpose of powerlifting lah. Because my diet has generally been like me wanting to lose weight or me wanting to like gain muscle. But I think the first proper like powerlifting diet that I did was when I wanted to go down a weight class. So it was back in 2017. I did one meet for it was a university meet. I think I weighed around 79 or 80 kgs. It was an open class, so there wasn't any weight categories. And after the meet, I remember I wanted to join a meet like not far from that meet in terms of the time frame. And I wanted to make weight for 74 lah. So
you were, I was in New Zealand at the time, like around 80 something lah. You were. I
think I was 79. 79. I want to drop to like 76. Yeah. So back then it was. I think I had a lot of control over my diet because I was forced to prep and cook my own stuff. And I think it was mostly consisted of like rice and chicken, pretty much. Yeah, rice, chicken, and then occasionally I eat like instant noodles if I didn't have time. It was like white rice, chicken breast, I think, chicken fillet, and then I put some sauce on it just so it's not too boring. And then I'll try to fit in like if I don't fit my protein in with that whole meal, I'll try to get in from like whey protein. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Like rice, a bit of like frozen veggies, chicken, and then every now and then, like protein powder or like protein milk, and then instant noodles if I don't have time. I haven't hit my caloric goals for the day. So that was like in. Yeah, sorry.
So you started with sort of like a calorie awareness lah. Even when before you started powerlifting, you had an awareness of how much calorie you had to consume. Was that the case, or were you only then realized, once you started trying to be a competitive lifter, then you sort of, take into consideration how much calories should you be consuming in a day? Or so what was that?
Yeah, I think the biggest difference before that particular time frame was that I've always been aware of like the principles of revolving weight loss and weight gain and whatnot. I knew that I had to eat less less calories in compared to calories out. But I was never because I didn't really have like a concrete goal to shoot for, so I wasn't really that I guess that detailed or that serious about it lah. Whereas when I was a bit more competitive, when I decided I wanted to be more competitive, was when I actually like consistently tracked my food and logged it into the calorie app. Every day, I try to eat the same things every day just to make it more manageable, more consistent. But yeah, I think I've always like been made aware of how you go about losing weight. I think I was never really successful back then because I think I overestimated my ability to estimate calories and whatnot lah. But when I actually like weighed it out and stuff, and like the weight just came off pretty easily lah.
Right, right. When
Yep.
Haris mentioned weigh it out, meaning weighing the food. So I think
Yep.
just trying to clarify that, because assuming that the listeners do not know, haven't tracked their macros before, so do not know what that means, is basically taking certain amount of food and put it on a scale, and that will give you a certain specific grams of whatever it is, protein or carbs or fat that you're looking for. What about you, Michael, though? Like, how was your diet when you started powerlifting
Oh
then
shit! When I
now?
started powerlifting, I think.
I think you would have the most interesting
Yeah, it'd be pretty crazy. All right, let's kind of, I guess, okay. When I started powerlifting, it was okay, right? Because and this is after I've come off like this insane like 10 kilos in 10 weeks cut that I did.
what?
It's freaking extreme, like, cause back then, like, during the Brody building days, it's like I was like, oh shit, you know what? I'm actually gonna do it now. I wanna I was like obsessed about it. Like I had to sleep at 9 p.m. because like I just felt so tired,
Shredded.
and I just didn't want to feel hungry because that hunger was like terrible.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yep.
I think it was like less than 1,008 calories a day. But when I started powerlifting, I weighed in at a healthy 105. And I think when I started out, I had a training buddy. Shout out to Elvis, my man's. Um, and yeah, so I think when we started out powerlifting, we were quite excited about it. And like, oh yeah, we gotta like track our food. We gotta get like so fucking jacked. Um, yeah, and so I actually bought like a box of like chicken breast. Like I think there was this
Wow.
food company that was like doing like selling like volumes of chicken breast. So we bought it in bulk, right? And
Is
then
it muscle food? I
I think
think
it's
in
muscle
UK.
food, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was like great because I like see they don't have that in Malaysia. That kind of like that'd be nice to
Yeah.
have, you know. Um, but yeah, then we bought like rice, like oats, and so we were kind of like on a health streak for a while. But I think after a while we just got really tired with the whole chicken breast thing. I think it was after like a week or two, and then
Just a week.
yeah, and then I guess more like convenient foods became part of our diet. I mean, not to say that chicken breast is not convenient, but like you have to like thaw it, and you know, if in a shared kitchen, that's not really like ideal. A shared kitchen of 15
Yeah.
Um,
Wow.
so
Damn,
yeah,
15.
yeah, because we
Wow.
like our halls was like there was like two kitchens among like 50 people, that sort of thing.
Is this like a student
Yeah, this is
accommodation
student
that you're
accommodation in the
talking about?
first year. Yeah. So this wasn't the most practical thing. So then yeah, instant noodles came into the play. You know, like slapped on with like mad eggs. You know, like shin ramen with like 6 eggs. That's like
Oh my god, yeah.
yeah,
That was the one that
That's
I
that's
yeah.
good though.
I
Like
indulged
it
in.
tastes good though.
Yeah,
yeah. I'm sure
exactly.
the viewers can appreciate and can
And it
empathize.
has like mad amount of sodium. Like I
That's
remember
right.
eating it and
It's
I
like
was like
Yeah.
bloated.
squeeze it, right? And then so it's like high
But I think for
protein.
like the amount of calories,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
It's like
Yes,
high
sorry, you go ahead.
carbs. Yeah. Like, and it was like a meal, you know, a shin ramen with 6 eggs, and then I think after a while it was kind of like just like if it fits your macros kind of thing. And then in second year we kind of went on like a chicken thigh and rice diet for a bit, which is like 4 chicken thighs and like just a huge amount of rice with soy sauce, and that
Wow.
was consistent, like the same amount of protein like every night. Um, and yeah, it's quite. I mean, in terms of like, in the grand scheme of things, like it's pretty if it fits your macros kind of style, and that just means that if you calculate your total sort of your BMR, your basal metabolic rate, um, that's how many calories you need to survive, and then from there you kind of get like your carbs, proteins, and fat ratios, and then you use like a food tracking app like MyFitnessPal or something, and you kind of key in what you eat, and the macros will come up, and you're good to go, and that's how you start tracking.
Is that like very much later in your career? I mean, like lifting career, or like is that
Yeah,
something that you've
that's like second year in, I think. The second year.
right?
And then I think that's when I took it a bit more seriously. And that's also when I got to 120 from 105. So, goddamn, right? If you need any bulking tips, just give me a shout. Slide in my DMs. Um,
How
yeah.
hard it is for you now to like sort of, I guess, because I know some guys have a struggle on maintaining certain weight. That could be like trying to match up a certain body weight, like a very high body weight, because they want to stay like, right. I want to stay in the hundreds, blah blah blah, whatever kilos, right? Is that difficult for you, or is it like very natural because you have appetite
Oh yeah,
is
for
always
me, like
there?
it's always been easier putting on weight than losing it. Like I generally my appetite is quite healthy. I'd say a bit too healthy, and yeah, like I've never had a problem like putting on weight. It's just trouble taking it off, and yeah. So at being at 120, kind of like whatever weight I move up to, it just feels it is what it is, kind of thing. It's not like I'm struggling to take in the calories, and I don't know, cursing. I'm not cursing. Blessing or curse, you know. I'm not saying cursing.
I feel you.
Yeah, like I don't know. Yeah, so I tend to recover pretty quickly if I'm just eating normally, I think, or just a bit more. What about you, Zati? How's your food been since
Food has been
the
great.
start of the journey?
So yeah, so I guess I some content is that I had a bit of eating disorder when I was like before I started powerlifting. The reason I started powerlifting because I want to get out of it, but without really much thought, like, oh, this is the solution. It wasn't that. It was just like I read a blog, literally. You gotta do weight training, and at the time, weight training is just weight training. I didn't even know bodybuilding. Heck, I don't even know powerlifting exists, right? This was the story then. And as long as I was touching the barbell, you're good to go. And once I start weight training, without specific to powerlifting, I do put on some healthy weight. So throughout like high school, whatnot, I was quite too lean for my own height. I think I was very like low 50s. And my energy was sort of low, and I didn't have a lot of knowledge about diet. So I guess I'm in the general population of easily misinformed population, I guess. And that continued throughout. And powerlifting sort of shifted my perspective and my focus not on food, but more on my, I guess, totals. So that was what changed my diet. So I started with I guess basic staple, like Haris mentioned, chicken rice, because that's like most students' diet, I guess. So like Michael mentioned as well, I was, I buy my chicken in like small portion, so I get chicken breast, and it's not because of health, but I rather prefer chicken breast because it's fast cooking.
Oh, but
And I
it's
did,
so tough.
Yeah,
yeah, I know, but I'm
it's
one of those
dry
people.
and bland.
I'm one of those people who can literally eat anything. I don't really care how it tastes. Like I just
Sandpaper.
need food in it. Like I was one of those people.
I feel like if you can do a
So
chicken breast right, like then you're all set. You know, like it's just like
yeah, I know. I
such an
should be walking with like 6% body weight, body fat percentage, but I'm not.
damn.
But anyway, so then I used to buy like small portion of my chicken, but I got so annoyed because I need to like carry them up my staircase to my flat, which was annoying. So I was in the UK, so there was a company that sells like bulk muscle food. They call it muscle food, I think it's called. So they had chicken breast, they had chicken thighs, they had like fish, red meat, and
Yeah.
there was even halal options for that.
I
So
think
I
it
was
was
like,
like 9 pounds a
Oh,
kilo. Was it 9 pounds a kilo? Or was it four
can't
pounds? 4
remember.
pounds a kilo.
This was ages ago. So
Yeah.
I remember, and I'll Google like halal chicken online.
Yeah.
that's just online.
And then it's like,
Yeah.
oh, why?
You don't have like a butcher that can deliver, like a halal butcher that can deliver to your apartment or whatever.
No, I don't need a halal butcher to deliver because literally the butcher is right below my apartment,
Oh,
but I
okay.
still need to walk up like four flights of stairs. I rather have a delivery man to just like prop the box right from my door, innit? Like, so that was
Oh,
Damn, you
okay.
want the delivery man to bring it up four
The butcher
flights of
doesn't do that.
stairs.
yeah. Nah, the butcher would not gonna entertain me that way. So that kickstarts sort of a very consistent healthy eating for me. And then I also had, the luxury of dropping into Tesco, and Tesco in UK has, I guess, health food section. What helped me cope with, like, I like ice cream, though I'm lactose intolerant. I love ice creams. They had Hello Tops. I'm not sure if you guys know what Hello Tops are,
Yeah.
but Hello Tops are like pint size.
Low calorie ice cream.
Yeah,
I
so
heard,
like
I heard they don't
Specifically.
taste that great though.
uh the peanut butter is not, but like the chocolate one is like chef kiss.
Alright.
So so yeah, anyway, the Halo Tops. So my point is that, and then I transition into, like, developing a bit more healthier perspective on food. So I don't really discriminate, oh, this is health food, this is bad food. I can still find healthy, healthy by meaning fit into my macros or my calorie intake through like normal food that people eat that I used to think was bad. And the alternatives that, low calorie alternatives or like macro friendly alternatives were available to me. So like protein shake in a bottle for like £2. So that was handy, and they were like packed with like 20 grams of protein. Done deal, let's go. And then like I mentioned, ice cream or like pretzels, whatever. They have like protein version of each and every item that I usually would considered bad. And then fast forward, and I'm back here. When the moment I back in Malaysia, man, I went from 60 kilos or like 59 kilos body weight to 64 in a month
Legit, like
after
yo,
after
same.
arriving in Malaysia. I'm not sure if it's the salt
I think
or
it's
It's not the salt.
no, but like also like I mean our food is so greasy, like Malaysian
It's
food.
MSG. Nah, I don't know.
Yeah, it's like salty, greasy, like it's like
Yeah.
it's actually a lot of
Yeah.
calories.
No,
Yeah.
because when I landed, I remember I went straight back to my hometown. So I lived in Ipoh in Malaysia. So a lot of the food here are like, I guess, leaning towards like soupy and brothy food. So they are like mad sodium. So I remember walking like very pudgy. I wasn't really comfortable walking in that way. And when I stepped on the scale, I was like, what the hell? I like put on 4 kilos just without even thinking. I was like, breathe the air. I put on 4 kilos, and more so like because I don't walk here, I drive everywhere.
Yeah,
So
that's
that helped
true.
a lot putting on weight. And completely, it triggered back the eating disorder that I used to have. Like, oh shit, I don't want to eat here, I don't want to eat that, I don't want to eat this. And then also at the same time, my lifting was progressing quite well, and I was trying to take powerlifting quite seriously. So my eating disorder almost kicked in again, and powerlifting sort of started to take more serious shape. As powerlifting started to take more serious shape, I don't know, my diet sort of regulate with it. I just started to read more on, okay, how do I consistently take protein, and then try to think how would that help being in Malaysia, because it's not a problem if you live in the urban area in Malaysia. I feel like if you lived in, I don't know, Kuala Lumpur, right in the smack center of Kuala Lumpur, I shouldn't be a problem. And especially when you have money. However, if that's not an option, then you might need to look around and think about what options you have. But because I'm back home, so my family has a cook, so she cooks. But obviously, when you live a family, you don't eat macro-friendly food.
Yeah.
Nah, like everything is fried.
Macro what?
Fried rice, fried mihun.
Fried chicken breast.
Yeah, so eventually I sort of learned how to not really reject that diet, because I feel like that's not going to be sustainable. Like I can't be, cooking in isolation for myself when the entire family eats that diet. So what I try to teach them, like, all right, why don't you, instead of frying this before you put in the sauce, why don't you like bake them or whatever, like try to change it up a bit. So it has helped me in a way, saved me a ton of money because it's not really coming out of my pocket. But at the same time, able to sort of, hit the macros, not as lean as I wish it to be, but, able to progress quite consistently. That's how now that I eat. So I eat together with family. It's just I am a bit extra aware. Like, all right, if they're gonna have, chicken wings, and I'm just gonna have the chicken without the sauce. It's just we're still eating the same stuff. So that's how I manage these days. So yeah, enough of rambling from me. What are sort of the things that you missed about? Okay, a bit of background. All of us started powerlifting when we weren't in Malaysia, and things were relatively easy to maintain. But what is it like that you feel that Malaysia lacks, in contrast to your past experience in terms of diet specifically?
Okay, I'll start first. I wouldn't say like it's like there are things that are lacking, but I think the bigger thing for me is in terms of the difference is like you mentioned just now. So personally for me, the biggest struggle that I had when I came back to Malaysia was, like you said, like living with a family, and like sort of like in a way it's you are sort of forced to eat certain things that you didn't have the, I guess, the luxury or privilege before, which is kind of weird. But before you sort of had to force yourself to prepare all these foods that were satiating and that fit your macros, and now it's easy to just chill and just let the food come to the table, but it's not really food that's probably the most productive for your goals. So yeah, I think that the social aspect of it is probably I think a bigger thing that people might think.
Do you think living alone helps you to be a bit leaner? Is that
Yeah,
what you're trying to
yeah,
get at?
yeah, definitely. Because I think when I came back, I gained kind of like you. I tried to maintain it for like the first 5 months of coming back. And then after a year, I think I was kind of like, oh damn shit, I can't do this anymore. Because back then I used to like shred chicken breast just so I could like just down it easily. Um, Came to a point where
Oh
I
my
couldn't.
god.
Yeah, I
That's
couldn't. Yeah,
alright.
it
That's
was
alright.
it was disgusting. It was disgusting. Like I would have put in the food processor and then it became like
Oh,
sprinkled.
blend chicken breast. Oh, I thought you meant.
No,
I
it's
thought you
it's
said
it's
shred.
not blended. It's not. It's like really. It's like dust. Chicken breast dust.
Oh, chicken
Yeah.
breast dust.
I'm the disgusting eater, and I
Oh,
am the appalling eater.
Because this was out of convenience. Like I wanted to just prep like a big portion and then put it in the fridge, right? So I can just take it out
you could
whenever I
have
want to
made
eat it.
like chicken breast bars, like just like and like
It was,
instead of bringing
yeah.
it, just like eat.
Yeah. I mean, now I definitely know better solutions, lah. But yeah, yeah, like I think the first few months I gained some weight, and then I had to force myself to first few months of me going home, I gained some weight, and then I had to like sort of like tell myself like, okay, like make sure I'm get back on track with my diet. And then after a while, it just became not sustainable because I always succumb to like family stuff and that kind of stuff. Um, which I didn't have to go through when I was living alone because the temptations weren't there. So I think staying with your family, especially if your family is like really big on eating and stuff, I think is a bigger problem than people would like to admit or people are actually aware of. Because
Why do you say so?
I've actually spoken to some people who like us used to study overseas and now they're back home, and they were definitely like a lot leaner when they were overseas. And I asked the person, and the person was like, "Nah, I think I'm okay. I think I have like pretty good control of my diet and stuff, like over the temptations." But the person is obviously not the same weight when she was. Oh, sorry, can give it
Oh.
away. When they were, if the person is listening, They probably know, but they're probably not listening. So yeah. So when they were there, they were like a lot leaner. Now they are more than they like to admit. It's not quite the same lah. Even though they think that they have it under control, but I think it's probably like a lot harder than they think lah. But to answer your question, like the biggest difference apart from like the social stuff and the presence of family, um, I think the only real difference for me here compared to there is the convenience, which I think we have alluded to in a previous episode, where if on that day I was struggling to hit a protein goal that I have, and the day is like coming to an end. If I was in New Zealand, I could just walk up to like a convenience store and maybe like buy like 2 bottles of like protein milk, which probably has around 80 grams of protein, and it's not that expensive relative to the allowance and as well as the minimum wage that people earn there. Whereas in Malaysia, you probably won't ever run into that convenience. The most you'll get at like a petrol station, I think, or one of whichever convenience store has it is that Milo protein thing,
Which
which
is like
costs about
for
3 ringgit, but it only has like 10 grams or 13 grams of
13
protein. I think.
grams. 13 grams of protein,
13.
10 grams of carbs. I know that.
Around there, yeah. So
It's not as lean as.
and it's like four,
It's not a
4
bad
ringgit, I
deal.
think. 4 ringgit. Yeah, so you'd have to buy like four, maybe like I don't know, 8 bottles, and that if you're like really short on your protein goal, and
Yeah.
yeah. But apart from that, even if when I was eating out in New Zealand, I wouldn't say like the options were that much more economical. Like when you're talking about like clean food. Like the cleanest food I had when I was like out and about, the option was probably like kebab. That was okay.
Greasy though.
Yeah, but it's kind of greasy, but that's probably like the clean, and it has quite a bit of protein as well. In
Yeah, fair enough.
Malaysia, I probably have more options in Malaysia, to be honest. Like if you're eating out,
Is it? Are you restricted by like halal options or is it options general?
um,
Like in New
me,
Zealand, were you kind of like restricted by that as well?
oh,
Because.
actually, not really. I think they have a like a halal Nando's there as well, but it wasn't cheap. Like, it definitely wasn't cheap.
Wait, so
So
like it was like that specific branch of Nando's that was halal, or
uh, I think there are a few branches in New Zealand, Nando's in New Zealand that are halal. Yeah. Or maybe all of them might be, but I'm not sure. But I've been to like two branches
yeah,
in
Zati,
Auckland.
you can post
In
this clip on Twitter and ask Nando's Malaysia.
yeah, yeah. But actually, Auckland itself has quite a bit of halal options. There's even like Malaysian restaurants there serve halal food. So there were options, but like after a certain point, it just becomes you just kind of run through all of them, and then if you want to eat like Malaysian food, you pretty much have to cook your own food, right? So yeah, I think the
But
biggest.
you were saying
Yeah, sorry.
that the like I guess the protein or the macro friendly options to eat out is much easier in KL than it is in New Zealand. Why is that so? Like what like the observation that you find?
Oh, I think it's just the variety. Okay, for one, the average meal in New Zealand, I don't know if this is formal or because I remember someone telling me that um like I don't know if it's legit, but I think they sort of mentioned like food having to have like a minimum price. I think like
All right.
$10 is the minimum average price of food, but they can always increase the portion lah.
Mm.
So you won't ever like get like a $1 $2 meal, which in Malaysia you can, right?
Right,
Um,
right.
so the economic like part of it
Aspect
is
of
one
it.
thing. Aspect is one thing. The food choices itself are okay. The portion I think like protein portions are probably more or less the same that what you find in Malaysia. But in Malaysia, you probably have like access to more food. But yeah, I mean, you could argue that maybe because I didn't have like the halal option was quite limited, so maybe I did probably have access to more types of food, like more protein friendly food. Um, yeah, but at least for me personally, the options that we had in New Zealand wasn't as varied as in Malaysia lah. Like Malaysia, you could go to like Mama and just like have nasi kandar with extra chicken, or like we said earlier, like you just have chicken rice, or even like nasi campur, or that kind of stuff. Yeah, eating
What
out.
about?
So yeah,
No, sorry, who's saying?
yeah. So eating out, I think not a lot of difference, but the convenience that you get, that the specific example that I mentioned before with the protein drink that you find in convenience stores, I think that's a pretty big benefit to have lah. If you can have it.
Um, Interesting, because I'm trying to like reflect back the time um, in London where similar. I cannot say the whole London is obviously I have dietary restriction like halal options. However, it's plentiful there, so it's not really a restriction at all. I don't really feel that I was living in a different country
Yeah,
in terms of
Yeah,
food
London's
wise.
a
The
bit
options
different. Yeah.
yeah, so like that part sort of covered. So I guess with that said, in terms of that is definitely cheaper option to eat to food. I remember spending less than £8 on like a massive plate of like I can't remember what it's called. It's type of rice, basically long green rice. I think, but it's a version of butter rice. There's a ethnic name to it. Can't remember what it is. But I was like, like quarter chicken or like half
Oh,
of
is this Caribbean food?
no, it is like Pakistani food as well.
Oh.
I think
oh,
Caribbean as
pilaf.
well.
Is it pilaf rice? No,
I think so.
not pilaf.
I'm not sure.
It's probably pilaf.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and like for like $8
Pilaf
for
rice.
£8, that much I could break it into half, like two size
Yeah.
meal for me, and still be satiated. So in that sense, it's cheaper in relative to how much I get monthly, versus now if I were to fork out money, go out and eat, you know, I'm not sure if I can get the same amount of protein I'm talking about. Like, because obviously I can
Right.
get cheap food, like here, no problem. 4 or 5 ringgit food, I can find them. But they don't have protein. Probably just rice and some gravy and like a very tiny piece of chicken.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
that's, I guess, the quality of macros that is available on my plate per dollar is completely different. Um, yeah, so like I'm just thinking about like now, even as a working adult, you don't get the luxury of, I guess, eating cleaner. One, probably you due to time and whatnot, but I think in general it's I think the cultural habit of eating more, leaning more towards carbs and fat. We have definitely abundance and surplus of it. Because I was just the other day, I was just like scrolling through my Instagram. I was talking to my family members. So my family is big on food, right? And the common thing that they consume is like fried stuff, literally fried everything, from dessert to savory to breakfast, name it, it's all fried. So I was just thinking about like, does that then drive? I think we're going off tangent with this topic because we're talking about powerlifting. Now we're talking about nutrition.
That's alright.
Should
That's
we?
alright.
Should we
Finish your thought.
And then
Finish
it's
your
kind of
thought.
like it kind of ties in. Yeah, it's
Okay,
okay.
so anyway, so my point was that I think for like people who try to do competitive powerlifting, right? Or people try to be athletic in general. If you are not one of those people who are, on your toes and trying to learn on nutrition, trying to be proactive in keeping up with your nutrition, it's so hard for you to have a very sustainable diet if it's not if it's not taking the extra step on prepping your food and outsourcing sources of proteins and carbs, lean carbs and whatnot. Because chances are the food that you buy out, you don't get that clean three profile of carbs, protein, and fat.
Yep.
It's always like, very high in fat, moderate protein, also very, very high in carbs. So it's hard for you to go around living comfortably and still try to be, athletic, or like eating smart in an athletic way. I don't know how to say it, but you get my point. Um, so yeah, so I was just thinking that like if this is the common diet, like average person, it makes it hard for anyone who just try to eat healthier. They have to take the extra step on being, you know. And I get why that is such a nuisance, because if I'm working, if I'm, if I'm going up my age, I want it to be much easier for me than it is to be hard for me, right?
Yep.
So yeah, I was just thinking, like, my friends who probably live in a country where things are a bit more available, easily available, attainable. I think it's relatively easier. I like to speculate that.
Yeah, I
So
think the biggest thing I miss about London is like, yeah, it's just the accessibility of health foods and the nutritional profile. Like, it's almost on everything you get. If I need more chicken, it's like walk down the shop, right, and get some fried chicken for like £4.50. It's like, yeah, it's sick, you know. Like, I mean, it's so accessible. Like, I mean, there are vendors everywhere, and it's so, protein is like abundant. Like, that's what I love about it. Like, it's
they even sell like deli meat, right? Like I
yeah,
know they sell
yeah.
like,
Exactly, and
yeah.
and that's what I love about it. Like, it's more accessible. I think, like, compared to Malaysia, like, obviously, like, um Western culture is a bit more of like, it's more meat centered, I guess, in that way.
Meat, yeah.
Yeah, and it's a bit more like a lot more accessible. People, I guess, are more aware, right, of um like nutrition, like carbs, fats, proteins, and
Nutrition, yeah,
it's a
probably,
bigger
yeah.
part of their
I
their
think
life.
so, yeah.
Yeah, that sort of thing. And yeah, I think that's the difference. Like, in Malaysia, though, right? Like, I mean, like, food is like cheap here. Getting protein is like, I mean, it's not like the most difficult thing in the world to do. It's just like just gotta go that, like, just an extra step, you know, that sort of thing. Um, yeah, and then compared to like working now, I think, like, and like family as well, right? Like, obviously that plays a big part in like tracking your diet and everything. And so with family, for me, because I work like a 9 to 5 on Monday to Friday, like, if you just like, you just gotta take the extra step to kind of get it.
Just,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, and then yeah, and when I work as well, cause like, yeah, my mom makes food for me for work, right? Cause we don't really go out and eat, cause MCO. Stay safe out there. Hashtag COVID-19. Um, so that's yeah, that kind of becomes this thing I have to work around in my diet now, at least, where it's like, oh, this lunch is roughly this many calories that I have to leave. Um, yeah, I think, yeah, I think tracking is the way to go if you want to like truly like control your body weight and be competitive in powerlifting. Like, it's
Yeah.
like, if it I mean, if it fits your macros, I think to some degree, like, it's good in the sense that you are just monitoring what controls your weight the most. But like, I think taking into account micronutrients and whatnot, like these things as well, I think I personally haven't tried them before, but I can imagine that someone who wants to make sure their performance is optimized would want to, take into account. Do you guys track micronutrients as well, or like, have you guys tracked these sort of things before, or yeah, or
Yeah.
what's the biggest thing you've tracked for, like, in your powerlifting career?
I think I did. And I still do. No, I did. I still do. What am I
Oh,
talking about?
okay. How do you track
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
micronutrients?
so like, yeah, I do, because I think I just want to get in a habit of not. Let me just take it back. I think when I first started knowing about tracking or macronutrients in general, I didn't really understand when it's like, all right, you have to have 100 grams of protein. I was like, what is that? I don't even understand what that means in relation to what I have to do, right? So, and then, like most people, just go on YouTube or whatever, how to track your protein. So I saw this lady. I think most of the fitness industry, or like people who are fitness enthusiasts would know, Stephanie Buttermore, Stephanie Putt's girlfriend. So she's a physique competitor. So she does a lot of tracking, right? So a lot of physique competitors does that, and I kind of learned about tracking through these channels. And when I tried, at first I got into this habit of like nitpicking. Like, I want perfect.
Oh,
Like, if I
no.
hit
Wasati effect.
120,
Decepticons are back.
Decepticon.
Hold on. Can you hear me? Hold on.
It's
Yeah.
Megatron.
You've been kind of robotic. Being kind of robotic. NGL. Yeah.
Autobots roll
I
out.
don't know why your voice is like robotic.
Hello.
Yeah, that's a lot
Okay.
better.
Yeah, you're back.
So yeah. So when I track,
Skynet things.
Skynet.
when I so when I first tracked, I got into this nitpick habit of trying to perfect my macros. 120 grams has to be 120 grams. It cannot be 130. Cannot be 109 or whatever. So that wasn't helpful. So I stopped tracking for a while because I think that's my perfectionist tendency to be that. Then I start tracking again since last summer when I was doing half a weight class below than I am now, under 60 kilograms. So that brought me down around. I was walking around 60, 61. So all I needed to was just like do water cut or like take a bit on like food volume a week or two out of the competition. So yeah, that was as I progressed into the career of into lifting, you just sort of know what you know what what bloats you, or like what makes you feel super full, or what makes you hang on to those like water unnecessarily. And then when I track now, it is not to like lose weight or to know like how much to know what's my protein intake, whatever. It's almost like I know I don't hit my protein already by, I don't know, by 8 p.m. But it's more just accountability. Like when I look, right, I fucked up, then it's just like a feedback loop to me. Not really like a way to punish myself. What about you? I know Haris tracks religiously because he's trying to be a skinny boy. Um,
Yeah,
so Haris,
me.
tell us the
Sorry,
story.
Michael.
Oh, Harris. Yeah.
Sorry, Michael, was you saying?
Sorry, were you asking like if we track micronutrients?
Yeah,
The
yeah, yeah.
macronutrients.
Like, micro, right?
I
Micro.
mean, I was talking. Oh yeah, but I don't think we went back to micro. But
Sorry,
Okay,
I had
yeah.
macronutrients.
yeah,
Right,
but
right.
yeah, you know what?
Yeah. Nowadays I have been trying to lose weight since MCO. Like when MCO happened, I think I ballooned up to like the heaviest I've ever been. And then I've done in the past. I've done like bouts of weight loss. But I think this one is probably the most successful one I've done so far because I've been able to sustain it. As far as tracking goes, for this bout of weight, I mean, it's not really that crazy successful, to be honest. Yet, at least not yet, lah. Because I don't think I'm anywhere near the level of the degree of weight loss that I want to be yet. But I didn't really track that religiously. I probably would have gotten better results if I did. But I think I don't. I kind of wanted to take an approach where I think most people will be able to relate to, especially like the general population. And so what I did instead was I just logged in my weight every day. That's one form of tracking. I did track. So the only thing I tracked was my carbohydrates, and the reason for that was because um, like the carbohydrate source that I eat every day is pretty much consistent. It's just rice. That's the only probably the only source of carbohydrates that I get. So how many calories I get from my protein and fats because I need to get the minimum amount. So the only variable that I'm really changing is the carbohydrates lah. So I'm really only having to figure out like how much rice I eat every day, which is pretty much the only thing I eat, and all the other stuff, kind of like small things.
Does it change much for your like carbohydrate? Like, I
Um,
guess since you're tracking.
yeah. So I didn't really have like a thought out plan where I like eat this much and then I eat this less and then I go back to eating this much. I just made sure I ate like consistent amount of rice that I weighed out every time I ate, which is somewhere around I think I had like 500 or 600 grams of cooked rice, which I think translated to about 200 grams of carbs, sort of. So that was the only thing I tracked, and I made sure to get in like a consistent number of steps every day, and I think I've been pretty successful so far. I didn't limit the amount of like the variety of food that I allowed myself to eat. Um, yeah, so I didn't really track anything else except for carbohydrates, pretty much.
Right.
I thought you tried
That
Michael,
was
do
protein
all.
you
as well.
track?
Yeah, I mean, not like religiously anymore. It's more like just like getting a rough idea of what I want. But like, yeah, I'm quite surprised at his answer. I thought it'd be like protein because like, I don't know. I keep that protein's actually the only thing I keep track of because I feel like I need to hit my protein goal every day. That sort of thing.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. But yeah, and yeah, and I guess that kind of brings us over to like this sort of idea that powerlifters, like had to eat like a certain way, right? And like I don't know, have you guys gotten a question where it's more kind of like where people ask you like, oh shit, why are powerlifters always so fat? Like, I mean, do you guys
All
I
the
mean,
time.
okay, I know I get that a lot, right? I mean, yeah, but like, yeah, it's well, what do we have to say about that?
Interestingly enough, I think a lot of people, I mean people, but general people, think that the moment that you do strength, it's a reason for you to just be sloppy in terms of how you eat. Like sloppy meaning is not like a bad thing, but like in a way that um, I don't really have to care so much what I eat or the quality of food that I eat because I do strength training. Because I would probably channel that into moving weights. Well, true, because food is fuel anyway, right? Um, but when we talk about sports in general or competitiveness in general, in strength sports, what drives that is the muscular. Um, what's the word?
Adaptation.
I'm completely having a
Muscle
muscle
action,
not muscle density. I don't know why I can't think today, but like
Mm-hmm.
body
basically,
composition.
yeah, body composition. You have to have lean body composition because the more what that means is you have more muscles. More muscle move more weights, right? And that means that your body has to be optimized. That was I was looking.
Mm,
So like if you just eat anything, you probably won't get at optimal level. Would eating anything help you move weights? Yeah, but would it move bricks? Maybe not.
yeah.
Because if you look at like elite, I want to talk about elite athletes, the ones that I guess if you are listening to this podcast, hopefully you aspire to be one. Um, those are the people that I notice they usually walk around very lean, like body composition. Like if they're 63, they're not 63 with like pudginess. They're 63 because they're like 63 worth of muscles. That's why you see like women at the 63 squatting 180 like no problem, or 200 even. So um, I get asked like, oh yeah, you do powerlifting, so you can just eat anything. This is by my general population friends. So I'm sorry if my friends listening this. I'm not shitting on you, but this is just the you know me. You don't probably won't care. Anyway, yeah, like they don't really care.
Yeah.
Um, uh, so what I'm saying is that they used to say that to me like, oh Zati, you do powerlifting, right? You can just eat anything. In fact, because I do powerlifting, I am more snobbish about my food than I was before. Like I'm not like trying to curb my calories, but more like picky in what calories I'm taking.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
This is my hot take on like
Go
why
on.
powerlifters are fat. If you ask me why powerlifters are fat, I actually agree with that, but mostly in Malaysia. And I think the main factor for that is because of the level of competitiveness of the sport in Malaysia. If you take any other sport, right? You take the average person, like for example rugby. There's a lot of fat like players in rugby as well, in Malaysian rugby. Like if you take the high schoolers, most of them are fat. So it's because they're not like at the competitive level, right? And with powerlifting, it's a it's a barbell sport, and so people like to sort of associate it with bodybuilding. But the main difference with powerlifting is that you can do it casually, like you can do it like at your own pace and the level of commitment that you want. But with bodybuilding, you can't not be lean when you're when you join a competition, right? Doesn't make
No
sense.
one.
But with
Yeah.
powerlifting, yeah. So powerlifting, you can join a meet. And you don't have to show up lean. Like you can just show up at whatever amount of pacing or commitment that you want to have, and just do
Whatever
whatever,
weight
take whatever you have on
class
the day
you
itself.
are.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, whatever weight class I. So people can just like, but there's no like prerequisite of having to be lean if you want to do powerlifting, which is not the case
Yeah.
with bodybuilding lah. Um, on the flip side, if you look at I guess regions or places where the level of competitiveness of the scene is much higher, where people take it more seriously, you'll see a lot of people like even in weight class like 100 kgs and stuff. They look the part. Like they're lean, they have a lot of muscles. So yeah, I think it just boils down in Malaysia. It just boils down to the level of competitiveness, lah. I think over time we might see more and more people looking like actual athletes, Malaysian powerlifters.
Oh, did you just say actual athletes?
Yeah,
Ouch!
Okay,
yeah.
Harris.
Ouch, Harris.
My, myself included.
My feelings are hurt.
I mean, you're 120, so you got a pass. You got a pass.
Wow, nice save, man.
No.
Like it doesn't work.
All right. Well.
Yeah.
Anyways, we'll be building on from this topic in our next episode on stereotypes. Yeah, why do powerlifters do X, Y, and Z? Right. So tune into the next one, and we'll see you there. Have a good one, guys.